and welcome back to Freckles and Blondie, the Lost podcast where we fight about Jack and Locke, because I'm sure we're going to be doing a lot of that today.
We've upgraded from Jack and Sawyer.
I know, so funny. I'm Randy.
I'm Tiffany.
And today we're discussing Season 2, Episode 3, Orientation. This episode was written by Javier Grillo-Marxuach and Craig Wright. Javier previously wrote 5 episodes for Season 1, and this is Craig's first writing credit for Lost. This is the 9th episode of Lost that Jack Bender has directed, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, he's like the go-to director.
Yeah, he's like the OG. And this episode originally aired on October 5th of 2005.
I don't think I've been doing the dates, have I?
Yeah, you never do them.
I always forget that part. I'm just like, who wrote it? That's all that matters.
I like looking at the date because I like to picture what I was doing on that date in that year.
Yeah. Well, and it is nice to know, like, when they have, you know, originally when they let a month sit between episodes, or if this did it air back to back the same night. So it's a good thing to know. I just forget.
Yeah, exactly. So, this episode is all about Locke.
Yes, it is.
Your favorite character.
Yes, indeed. Mr. John Locke, pain incarnate.
That's a good description for him.
It is. I just want to give him a hug.
Yeah, so I'm assuming you enjoyed this episode a lot.
I did. I enjoyed it a lot. And I felt like it was a good continuation of last time. Actually, well, see, this starting scene where we have them in their standoff with the hatch feels like a continuation of the first episode, because we have this final moment is the same in first episode and the second episode.
Yeah, we've seen this scene 1,000 times by now. Yes.
So when I say it feels like a good continuation, it feels like a good continuation of Jack's story.
Yeah, it does.
It almost feels like part 1, part 2, where we get kind of like Jack's perspective first, and now here we're back with Locke's perspective. So we've got this man of science, man of faith. And I feel like I retract my statement a little bit where I didn't like the title for man of science, man of faith.
Okay.
Because I knew we were going to have this scene in this episode where they fight about having faith.
Yeah.
And that's like the scene that I think of when I think of this conflict.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really nice to see it in this episode, but I was like, yeah, the other episode probably was more aptly named for it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that scene where they talk about faith, as soon as it started playing, like it just all came back to me. It's such a good scene.
It's fantastic. And it's one of those great conflicts where both sides have a point. They're both right in their own ways. And that's just the best kind of conflict because it's not easily resolved and you don't have a clear victor.
That's so true. Yeah, and I would say, at least for me, this is kind of the first time where I've kind of been able to see both sides of what Jack and Locke were saying. Mm-hmm. Even though I tend to agree with one side more than the other, I mean, they both have good arguments and they're both very invested. They're both kind of having like personal crises, it seems like, throughout various points in this episode. It's so intriguing. It's really good.
Yeah, I agree. In the show, I love John Locke so much and I love his philosophy and the way he thinks of the world. So I tend to agree with him, but, you know, in like real life, if this was really happening to me, I'd probably be more Jack-like. So that's why it's hard for me to come down on either side.
Yeah, definitely. I tend to agree more with Jack just because I'm more of a realist. But I mean, when you think about Locke's backstory, it's hard not to feel some sympathy towards him.
Oh my God, it's impossible.
Yeah.
If you don't feel sympathy for John Locke, you have no soul.
Yeah, his life is pretty tragic.
It's so tragic. And I love the opening of this episode for that reason, because, other people's problems are just nothing compared to his problems. Just, we'll talk about it when it happens, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yes, I really enjoyed this episode overall. Not my favorite John Locke episode, probably just because I really enjoy his backstory, but I don't feel like a lot happens. I love meeting Helen and I love that character, but I don't feel like it progresses a ton.
Yeah, I'd agree. I don't feel like we learn like a significant amount of new information about Locke, but
yeah,
I like the way it connects with what's, going on in the hatch and on the island. So
yes, definitely. And I can't not enjoy time with John Locke, especially because Terry O'Quinn is just absolutely amazing. In every scene, he can make the simplest scene, the simplest line so poignant just in the way he delivers it.
He's really good, as always. I feel like we get great performances from Matthew Fox. That could just be my opinion, but I feel like he does really well in this episode. And also the actor who plays Desmond. Like, everyone is just at the top of their game, it seems like.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like Matthew Fox's performance, but I can see why you'd say that. I think it's just a matter of, like, preference and interpretation. I just feel like he overacts it, but if you, like, really sincerely believe the emotion he's trying to give, then I can see why you would like it.
Yeah, I think he's underrated. I think he does a great job. Even when he's saying things that I don't agree with, or I'm just like, okay, maybe you should calm down, I still think the way he delivers it, I don't know, I just really like it.
I was noticing, because I was paying attention to him in a few scenes, I was noticing that I liked him better when the focus wasn't on him. Like, if I could just kind of see him in the background, and he was just kind of fuming, I was like, I was more okay with that than when it was like a big scene where he was just yelling, and I was just like too distracted by that. I was just like, just bring it back a notch, please. And that could not be, like, it's very possible that that's not even Matthew Fox's fault. He could be being directed that way. The director could say, give me more, give me more. So even if I, like, have a problem with Matthew Fox's performance, it's not necessarily his fault.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and it could be just the way you feel about that character. Because my favorite scenes of his in this episode are all of his big screaming scenes. I think he does great in those. So,
which are probably my least favorite scenes. So it's so funny.
Yeah, it's just different opinions.
That's just Jack. He's just very polarizing.
Yeah, something about him. I just love him.
Yeah, people love him or hate him. There is, like, no one who just doesn't care.
Yeah, it's very true. Okay. I feel like this is going to go very long, so should we get into this?
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right. Previously on Lost, Jack actually met Desmond years before they met on the island. There's some kind of huge magnet inside the hatch, and Michael and Sawyer came back to the island only to encounter Jin and the others. So we pick up right where we left off in the last episode. Before Michael, Jin, or Sawyer can fight back, a large man with a big stick knocks them unconscious. This group of strangers puts the three of them in nets, drags them to a large pit, and throws them inside. Michael, of course, starts yelling about Walt, but he doesn't get any response. So, yeah, I like that we open, like I said, we pick up right where we left off in Adrift.
Yeah, there's no moment to catch your breath. It's just, here we are. Yeah, it's intense. And it puts you off balance.
Yeah, it's scary.
Mr. Echo.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess we don't know his name yet, but
not yet.
big guy with stick, that would be Mr. Echo. And
Yep.
he is an intimidating presence when he would like to be.
Yeah. I feel like he could take on Said or Locke any day. So.
Oh yeah, anyone. Just anyone.
Yeah.
I can't wait to get to know him.
Yeah.
Not to spoil. I'm just excited.
I know. In the hatch, we get another repeat of the showdown between Jack, Locke, and Desmond before cutting to a flashback.
In case you didn't get it the first time.
Right. In case you didn't get it in the first episode.
Where is Kate? Kate is not standing right there. Oh, she's in the vent.
Yeah. Just to reiterate it again.
Whew, thank goodness.
Yeah. It's been a couple years since Locke had his kidney stolen, and he's been going to anger management group. A woman is sharing about how her mom stole $30 from her, but she's got nothing on Locke's tragic story. He tells the group what his birth mother and father did to him, understandably still very angry. After the meeting, a woman named Helen approaches Locke and commends him on his outburst. He said everything she's always wanted to say. Locke says he probably won't be coming to the meetings anymore, and Helen says that's too bad. She likes bald men, and she's willing to wait.
To wait for his hair to fall out.
Yeah.
She makes a great first impression.
Yeah, she's immediately likable.
I really enjoy her. I enjoy her enjoying Locke.
Yeah.
I like everything about this scene. I love, the girl whining about how her mom stole $30 from her, and poor John Locke having to sit there and act like he cares about something like that.
Yeah, the way he starts laughing in the middle of her story. Fantastic.
Yeah, and I feel like he has to feel this all the time. Like, okay,
right.
You feel like your life is hard. Oh, is your daddy mean to you? Well, let me tell you about my daddy.
Yeah.
And he's just so good in this scene when he explains what has happened to him. His performance is so good. I can't even describe how good it is. He's just so raw and vulnerable and just full of pain. And I love him so much. I want to protect him.
Yeah, he's great. We don't say it enough. Terry O'Quinn is a master in the show.
He is probably my favorite actor on the show.
Yeah.
He's just incredible.
Even if I don't like half the things he's doing, he's still great.
He is. But yeah, this first meeting with Helen is just really impactful, and you can tell that she's going to be important.
Yeah, most definitely. Back in the hatch, Kate discovers another room with an unlocked door and a bunch of weapons. She quickly loads a gun and creeps up on Desmond from behind. She knocks Desmond out, causing his gun to go off, but thankfully it doesn't hit anyone. It does, however, hit the computer, and when Desmond sees the damage, he says, "We're all going to die." And we cut to the title scene.
Desmond has a flair for the dramatic.
Yeah, he does.
Poor guy. He's been living in quite a bubble. This must all be very alarming.
Yeah. We'll talk about it later, but I don't know how he's still, holding on to his sanity.
Yeah.
At this point. I don't understand.
Did we learn how long he's been down there yet?
No. No, we haven't learned that yet.
Okay. I was wondering at some point in this episode, I was like, did they say? I can't remember.
I mean, I don't know how anyone can survive pushing that button alone. Being woken up every 108 minutes to push a button. Like, how? Wouldn't you just go insane? It's like your own special kind of torture. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, gosh, that reminds me of having a newborn. But she, grows older, and the button is just going to keep beeping.
Wow. Reason number 524 why I'm never having children. Nightmare. Coming back, Jack starts to tie up Desmond, but Desmond points to the timer on the wall. He says he has to enter the code and push the button and only has a certain amount of time to do it. Jack asks him what will happen if he doesn't, but Desmond responds by asking if he knows Jack. Jack says nothing, but lets him up to try and fix the computer. I like the, when Jack says, "Don't tell me what to do," to Locke in this scene.
Yes, I like that too. It's always interesting when someone tells Locke, "Don't tell me what to do." Because that is Locke's mantra.
Right. Like, I feel like Locke should have that tattooed on somewhere on his body at this point. So yeah, whenever it gets called out in the show again, I'm like, oh.
Yeah. And there's like another moment after that where Jack just looks at him and he's like, "What?" And Locke's just like, "Nothing, Jack." Do you know that moment?
I do know that moment.
Like, what is going on there?
I don't know, but it was, I don't know. I love that little moment though. It just felt so in character for both of them.
It does. And I was trying to figure it out. I watched it again and was like, did I miss something? I feel like there is something very subtle happening between them, and it wouldn't have just been written for no reason. So why did they write this?
Yeah. I don't know. I can't describe what's going on there, but I love it.
It's like Locke is having some sort of realization about Jack, I feel like. And
yeah, it's like he's assessing Jack, trying to figure out what's going to be best for him.
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel like this whole episode he kind of assesses Jack. And I think that's how we get to our ending is when I think he's kind of seeing a crack in him that maybe Jack doesn't even realize at this point in the episode is happening, but maybe Locke sees it.
Yeah, that's definitely true. In a flashback, Locke and Helen have just spent their first night together. Helen wakes up while Locke is getting dressed. He says he has trouble sleeping in a strange bed and he'll call her later. We cut to Locke, who is sitting in his car outside his father's house, when his father gets into the passenger seat. He knows John likes to sit outside his house. It's creeping him out, and Anthony asks what Locke wants. "Why?" Locke says. Anthony replies, there is no why, and he's not the first person who's ever been conned. He tells Locke to get over it and that he's not wanted.
Ugh. Ouch.
I mean, yeah, just a monster of a human being here. Like,
absolute monster. Like, nothing Christian Shepherd has ever said to Jack, like, compares to this. Like, this is just the worst father I can imagine.
So true.
Poor Locke. That why is so important to him. He has to know that he's suffering for a reason. To think that all his suffering is just for nothing, that there is no why, like Anthony says. That would be the ultimate tragedy. If there was no purpose to any of this. Like, it's so perfect for his character, who is so faith-driven. Of course he feels this way. There has to be some greater purpose to everything.
Yeah, and if he knew that purpose, maybe he could, move on, get on with his life.
Yeah, It's like, you can endure so much if you know that it's for something greater.
Right.
But if you're just being told, like, there's no point to this, you're just suffering because you're suffering, like, you're just supposed to, like, that's the worst thing you could ever hear.
Right. Ugh. Yeah, it's so sad that he's so cold about everything he says to Locke. It's like he doesn't have, I don't know, a decent bone in his entire body. No. It's awful.
Yeah, he doesn't have any pity for this poor guy who clearly, like, this relationship meant so much to him, and crushing it just crushed him. And, they hardly, like, it was a few months, I think, that they bonded, but, like, for that to have been so impactful to him, he just didn't have anything else in his life. Like,
right.
But he just doesn't care. And these scenes are such a good reminder of Locke's life and, like, why he is so happy here on the island. And, like, it just makes me so happy for him. He's finally found something that makes him happy. Because it's like, God, you really deserve this.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like he puts too much faith in the island, though, and the hatch. Yeah. But I mean, when you think about what his life was before, it's very understandable, but
he's just so committed to whatever he's focused on. Like, he's just gonna do everything 1,000%. He wants this relationship with his father so desperately, and he's gonna sit outside his door every day for years trying to cultivate this relationship or figure out how it went wrong or what he did to deserve it. And then on the island, it's just 1,000% commitment to the island because it gave him everything he wanted. It made him feel special.
Yeah, I would argue that that's like one of his great character strengths and also one of his weaknesses as well.
Yeah, definitely.
You know?
Yeah.
It doesn't always serve him the best, both in his flashbacks and on the island, so.
Yeah, totally. Also, I have to point out his car again.
I didn't even notice that.
I'm always so fixated on his car because it just seems so happy compared to this poor, sad John Locke. He's got this like shiny red Volkswagen Bug.
It's so weird.
It's so conspicuous that I feel like it has to be purposeful, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like it fits in with this image that we have of him, you know, working in the toy shop and playing all the board games where he just has this sort of like childlike wonder about everything. It's so funny.
Yeah, that is funny. I never notice cars in TV shows. So.
I don't usually. I'm not a car person at all, but it's just like, especially the shiny red, like it's so vibrant and like that's a very specific car that you just don't give to any character. Like if Jack were driving this around, we would be like, what on earth? Yeah. You are not a shiny red, like bug kind of guy.
Yeah.
But
so true.
For Locke, it does kind of make sense because he has that kind of whimsical thing about him where he would like a car like that.
Yeah. It works for him in a weird way.
Yeah.
Desmond is frantically looking for something to help him fix the computer. Locke offers to help, but Kate reminds everyone that Saeed can fix computers, because Saeed can fix anything, apparently.
Yep.
Jack tells Kate to get Saeed, and she leaves through the hatch's front door. But Jack is frustrated, and before Desmond can get to work, he demands some answers. Desmond tells them that 3 years ago, he was on a solo race around the world when his boat crashed on the island. Someone named Calvin found him, led him back to the hatch, and entered the numbers, saying he was saving the world. Now Calvin's dead, Desmond's alone, and that's the end of the story. Jack doesn't believe a word of this, but Locke, of course, is willing to go on faith, until Desmond tells them to watch the film if they don't believe him. They find the film behind a book called The Turn of the Screw, and it's labeled Orientation.
Ooh, I did not look up the book.
I didn't either, because I never do that.
Now I feel like I missed an opportunity.
I did read that apparently there are a lot of books on the shelf in the hatch that are all about espionage and like spying and stuff. Apparently,
interesting.
If you like pause, there's like, you can like see a title of 5 or 6 books that all have like kind of the same theme to them.
Desmond, you never picked up on that?
Yeah. Come on, Desmond.
I'm sure you had plenty of time to read these books about 10 times each.
Exactly. But yeah, I like this scene. I love the actor who plays Desmond. Henry Ian Cusick. He's so good. Like, I instantly just want to know everything about him.
Yes, he's great. And in this scene, he's got the hardest job that actors have is when they have to deliver lots of exposition.
Yeah.
And explain, like, the tedious details of what has happened. That's always boring. It's hard to act. And he does it so well. It's like, it's just very casual and conversational. And like, I love the line where he says, we were just saving the world. We saved the world together for a while. And that was lovely. And you're like, was it lovely?
Right.
Just like the way he delivers it. It's so interesting because there's so much to read into that line. And that was lovely.
Right. I feel like he's so focused on what he has to do. The way he delivers lines is almost sarcastic. It's like, now Calvin's dead and I'm alone and that's the end of the story. Can I please get back to work here? Like, he doesn't care that Jack, wants answers. He's got a job to do. So
yeah, he's not here to convince him.
Right.
That is just not important to him. It doesn't matter if he believes. He's like, this is what we have to do and freaking help me or get out of the way.
Yeah. I love that level of determination. He's great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I love the obvious response from Jack and Locke where Jack is just like angry with this story because he doesn't feel like it could possibly make any sense. And Locke's just going with it because it is what it is.
Yeah. He just is ready to have faith in whatever is going on down in this hatch.
Yeah. I mean, I like his response when Jack is like, please don't tell me you believe this. And Locke is like, his word is all we have. Because that is true. They have very little to go on right now.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Because when it boils down to it, when someone's telling you something like this, what matters is that they believe it. The person telling you it believes it. Desmond, you don't get an ounce of lying from him. Like, it doesn't seem at all like he's being dishonest because he doesn't care. He doesn't care if you believe him or not. He's just telling you what he does. And you can choose not to believe in his purpose, but I believe Desmond believes this.
Yeah, I believe Desmond believes this too. I still wouldn't believe any of it if I was down here, but yeah, I mean, he's determined, so.
Exactly. And I mean, if I saw someone so upset, I would be like, okay, I'm gonna try to help you fix this, even if I don't believe it, because I would like you to calm down.
Yeah, fair enough. On the beach, some of these survivors are returning from the caves after having survived the night. Hurley talks to Sayid, saying he didn't think everyone would survive, and is glad things are finally getting back to normal. Just then, Kate runs out of the jungle, telling Sayid they need his help. And Hurley couldn't look less pleased to see Kate, which is hilarious.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I like how it's been probably 6 hours since they blew up the hatch. And Hurley's like, everything's back to normal.
I know! It's like, Hurley.
Not really.
You of all people should know things are just getting started.
Yeah, we have this line just because it's funny, not because it makes any sense.
Very true. Down in the pit, Sawyer and Michael are asking Jin what he knows about their captors. He says again that they are the others, but they blindfolded him. Sawyer gets the other two to boost him up to see if there's any way to escape. Before he can get very far, the pit opens and an unconscious woman is thrown down with them.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, so this is Ana Lucia, who we previously saw in one of Jack's flashbacks, I believe.
I think it was in the finale.
Yeah.
When we got a little peek into everybody's time on the plane in the airport.
Mm-hmm.
Because he met her at the airport bar. And they were flirting it up.
She was super aggressive, even though his dad had just died.
Aggressive in a flirtatious way.
Yeah.
To clarify.
Still aggressive.
She didn't want to attack him.
Yeah, very true.
But yeah, I feel like this is a good plan on Ana Lucia's part to kind of figure out their deal.
Yeah, it's very smart.
Yep.
And it makes it for such a great twist later on, when she kind of turns on them.
True. Very true.
Back in the hatch, Jack and Locke are setting up the projector. Jack wants to know more about what was going on before he arrived, but Locke says he pretty much got the gist of it. Jack doesn't believe this computer will save the world. It's impossible and insane. Locke responds by asking Jack about the fact that Desmond seemed to recognize him, because that really would be insane. Together they watch the video. It welcomes them to the Swan Station and describes a project called the Dharma Initiative, founded by the Hanso Foundation in 1970. They were supposed to study zoology, meteorology, and electromagnetism, among other things. There was some kind of incident, and now they're required to take shifts and enter the code into the computer every 108 minutes until their replacements arrive. It also warns them not to use the computer for anything else besides entering the numbers. The video ends, and Locke says, "I think we need to watch that again." Jack doesn't agree. He's seen enough.
Of course he has. So we get our second nod to Desmond recognizing Jack and Jack blowing it off.
Mm-hmm.
And Locke instantly knowing that that's the key to what is up with Jack.
Yeah, and I would argue that, because Jack, I've said this earlier, but he seems to be having kind of a personal crisis in this episode.
Yeah.
And I think it's the fact that it's Desmond down there and they previously met, before.
Mm-hmm.
I think if it had been some random guy, Jack would have been like, all right, you do you, Locke. I'm walking out of here. I don't care about this at all. But it makes it a little bit, crazier.
Yeah, because this is exactly what he is saying is not happening.
Mm-hmm.
This is the twist of fate that Jack would say is impossible.
Yeah.
So to be surrounded by people telling him even more impossible things, he's rebelling against all of it. He just hates all of it, even though he's got this, as much fact-based proof as he could possibly hope for right now that something extraordinary is in the works.
So if you were down there and you watched that video, would that, completely convince you that this was all real and super important?
No. That video wouldn't convince me of any of that.
Okay.
I think Jack seeing Desmond might convince me of that more. I feel like that's the powerful thing. That's the emotional thing.
Uh-huh.
The video is just interesting. It's really intriguing. And first of all, I love Locke watching it. He's smiling. He's just so jazzed.
So weird.
Yeah, it is so weird. And the video, everything in it is so strange, and I love this video so much.
Yeah.
There's just so many little odd, quirky things happening, and it's too hard to put into words.
Yeah. It definitely raises a lot of new questions. It makes me, after I watch this video, I'm more skeptical than ever.
Yeah. And Locke's beliefs are in the island. The island is what has become a part of him,
Right.
This hatch is a man-made thing inside the island. While I feel like he still feels like there's answers here and this is where his fate has led him, I feel like this is him getting kind of pulled away from the thing that has actually been helping him.
Yeah, that's so true. And that makes it seem like Locke is smart. I feel like at the end of this video, all these alarm bells should be ringing in his head that something isn't right here.
Yeah.
'Cause it's it seems to me when I watch this video, if I was down there and I was watching this video, I'd be like, okay, clearly some scientist created a cult in the 70s, when cults were really big. There were so many cults in the 70s, and they moved everyone onto this desert island to do experiments, and something happened, and it's 45 years later, and all the nothing has changed in this hatch, obviously. Everything is from the 70s, so there's clearly something not right going on here,
Yeah, it's very weird. And the fact that this is supposed to be a research facility, it opens the door to you feeling skeptical and rational. This this is not where you think about faith and destiny. I see that on the island. Here, I see like science and maybe science gone wrong.
Yeah.
We don't know really what's going on with this hatch, but I guess we kind of know maybe the initial purpose, sort of. We don't even know that.
Right. Just vague murmurings of what it was.
Yeah. And I think it's also interesting. I wrote down exactly what they labeled the whole like Dharma Initiative facility. They called it a multi-purpose social science research facility. And the fact that they emphasize social science, I feel like that is the key. That's the key to you feeling like maybe they are just watching to see if you will push the button.
Yeah.
Because social science is, that's like psychology. Like what do two people do when they're told that this button will save the world? Do they push it or do they not? Do they break when they're down here alone for years or do they not?
Right. Yeah. And they're on this like island in the middle of nowhere. It's just funny how Locke just refuses to see any of this. He's like, nope, this is what we're doing now.
Yeah, I think he's just so intrigued and so curious, and he just wants to know more, and he wants to know every nook and cranny of this island, and this is part of it.
Very true. If it was me, I'd be like, this is a cult. Bye. I'm never coming in here again. I'm done. But that's just me.
You'd be sitting on the beach with Hurley.
Yeah. And Charlie, who would be playing his guitar.
Being like, I wish things would go back to normal.
Exactly. Back with Helen and John, they're out to dinner celebrating their 6-month anniversary. Helen gets Locke a key to her house, on the condition that he stops leaving in the middle of the night. She's followed him and knows that he's been visiting his father's house. Helen tells them that with his help, she stopped being so angry. She says she can help him too, as long as he stops visiting his father. Locke agrees and pockets the key. And this is just really sweet.
It is really sweet. I just want John to be happy.
Yeah, I mean, Lord knows he deserves it after the things he's been through.
Yeah. And it's so nice that Helen sees past this struggle he's having and sees the good guy he is and just wants to help him.
Mm-hmm.
Because, she's making a pretty reasonable request. Like, please stop stalking your father.
Yeah, it's understandable.
And you can see that he really wants to do this for her. Like, mentally, he wants, or maybe I should say emotionally, that's what he wants, but it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, definitely. And you can tell that, like, if he doesn't do this, he's never going to be able to move on with his life.
Yeah. Ugh. Anthony Cooper, you are the bane of our existence.
Just a life ruiner.
Just a plague.
Yeah. God.
Stop it.
Back in the pit, Anna Lucia wakes up. Michael tells her the three of them were on a plane crash, and they discover she was in the tail section of the plane. She says she's been on her own this whole time, trying to survive and searching for other survivors until they found her. Michael asks about Walt, but Anna Lucia hasn't seen him. Sawyer pulls out his gun and tells her that the next time the others come to the pit, they're in for a surprise.
I wrote down so little about these scenes with them in the hole because I feel like it's just so expositional, and yet we still don't really learn a lot. I feel like most of the scenes I'm just like, okay.
That's true. I do like that we find out that she was in the tail section of the plane.
Yes.
Because, I mean, at this point in the show, I'd almost forgotten the plane had a tail section. Like, that's, as far as I'm concerned, like, no one made it out alive. That's long gone. So.
It's true.
To find out that, there was at least one survivor of that is pretty crazy.
Yeah, and this could definitely be another one of those consequences of having seen the show so many times where I'm just like, yeah, I know. I know
Yeah,
you are,
exactly.
Alicia.
Yeah, and I was just trying to think of when I first saw it, so yeah. Desmond continues to work on the computer while Jack asks him questions. How come you didn't know about the plane crash? Where does your food come from? Are you in contact with the people who made the video? Desmond doesn't. Yeah. Desmond doesn't have very satisfactory answers, and Jack believes that this is all a mind game, an experiment to see if a person really would push a button every 108 minutes. After all, none of the survivors from the plane crash have gotten sick. Desmond hopes none of this is real, but the large magnet near the hatch's entrance makes him believe differently. When Desmond finally tries to turn on the computer, the power cuts off. He panics, says it's over, and runs to pack a bag. Locke tells him Saeed is coming to fix the computer, but Desmond isn't sticking around for that. Locke says this wasn't supposed to happen, but Jack tells him he's on his own. Locke attempts to fix the computer himself, but quickly gives up, yelling, "What am I supposed to do?"
So much happens here.
I know, it's a big scene.
I love the moment when Jack is talking to Desmond and he is like, have you never thought that this could just be an experiment to see if you'll do it? And Desmond, of course, responds, I think about that every single day.
Yes.
Like, duh, of course I've thought that.
Yeah. I love the acting between the two of them. They're so good together.
Yes. Desmond isn't pushing this button because he's stupid. He's pushing it because that 1% chance that this is true, that the world will end if you don't push it, that 1% chance in your mind is enough to make you just push it,
Right.
Like, why not just do it? And just
right.
On the chance that you are saving the world, you're just going to do it. And it's going to drive you mad thinking that this is probably not real.
Yeah, they both have good points here. You can kind of see both sides, so.
Yeah, like I have so much sympathy for Desmond in this scene. If he just believed this with every fiber of his being, that would be boring. But the fact that he is so conflicted and torn, he thinks about this every day for hours, and it must drive him so crazy.
Yeah.
And of course he leaves the second he has the chance. I would leave too.
Yeah.
Be like, dude, I'm done. You guys deliberate, okay? I'm tired of thinking about this.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like if that actor who plays him was he really, really sells it. If he had just been a little bit less good, I wouldn't have, some of his lines just wouldn't have come off as sincere, but he's just so good. He's so good.
Yeah, he has that. I hesitate to say this to you. He has that John Locke thing about him where you're just you are selling this out of pure conviction. This is just, it's so authentic to you that I can't, even though I disagree, I get it,
Yeah, I get I suppose.
Not for you.
Yeah, we know how I feel about Locke. There's something different about Desmond.
I think I just get authenticity from both of them.
Yeah, that's true.
But, and I think that he appeals to the perfect thing with Jack when he says, this is supposed to be a station monitoring electromagnetism, and if you walk through that hallway, the electromagnetism is real, because that is something solid and scientific, and it doesn't prove anything, but it's something,
Yeah. Yeah, it is something.
The only thing that bugs me in this scene is I feel like Desmond would not forget his picture of Penny.
Oh, yeah. That's such a good point. I didn't even think about that. Yeah. He would have taken that.
I can't imagine any possession he has that would be more important than that. And he literally packs up a bag with food and stuff.
Yeah. I feel like maybe he leaves that behind just for, plot reasons. They're going to need that picture to be there down the road, even when he's not. But
yeah, possibly, but I don't like that.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like Locke is he's having a real crisis of faith here. He obviously thought this hatch should be full of miracles and whatever else, and now he's alone. And I'm not sure why he asked Jack to stay. Jack, of all people, clearly has zero interest in being there. In my opinion, he only ever came down into this hatch for Kate. Like, he's been arguing and contradicting Locke the whole time. Like, Locke, find someone else to go on this hatch adventure with you. Like, you don't need Jack.
Well, at this point, Jack's the only one there, right? Desmond's pieced out. Kate's getting Saeed.
Yeah, Kate's on her way back with Saeed. Get one of them to help you, Locke. Like, Jack doesn't want anything to do with this.
Yeah, I think he's just scared. I think he's just scared in this moment, and he's confused and overwhelmed, and he's just looking for help. And, normally Jack is the guy who would help you, but he's not going to help Locke.
I mean, he was never going to help Locke with any of this. Do you know what I mean? It's just so...
Yeah, I think it's just desperation from Locke.
Yeah.
Poor guy just doesn't want to be alone. So tired of being alone.
Oh, Locke.
I love any moment when he is talking to the island. It's so great.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
I don't know what else to say about it, but yeah. In a flashback, Locke gets up in the middle of the night. He looks at his scar from the kidney surgery and of course ends up back in front of his father's house. However, Helen follows him, takes his keys, and throws them over the gate. She tells him his father doesn't care and that she knows Locke is scared. She says he has to choose, him or me. Locke says he can't, and Helen tells him to take a leap of faith. He doesn't have to be alone.
Except in the hatch.
Yep. Which we just saw.
I love this scene, except I always wonder, like, why are you throwing the keys over the
I know!
gate? Now, like, what are you gonna do?
I always wonder that too, because it seems like
that car towed?
Yeah, it's such an extreme thing to do. It's like, how is that helping anyone?
Yeah, you want him to leave the house, so why would you throw the keys away?
Exactly. Like, why wouldn't you just take them from him and hold on to them?
I get you're trying to make a point here, but come on.
Yeah.
Other than that, I like the scene.
Yeah.
And it's a good reminder that, all your relationships are a leap of faith.
Yeah, that's true. Sorry, I just had a moment of personal reflection. But anyway, let's continue on.
Wait, I want to hear about your personal reflection.
No, you don't. You really don't. It's sad. Anyway.
Oh, dear. Okay, Randy. We're all going to wonder about that for a while.
Okay.
But yeah, this is great. John Locke, who is always alone and doesn't really have any relationships. It's an interesting thing for him to be told.
Yeah. Yeah, and obviously when Helen tells him to take a leap of faith, that has direct connotations of what's going on in the hatch. So.
Absolutely. And this would be the scariest thing for him to do. He took a leap of faith with Anthony Cooper, and look what happened.
Exactly. Yeah, which just makes, we've said this many times before, but the fact that Locke took that leap of faith, had that horrible thing happen to him, and he still puts his faith in other things is, he's just, I don't know, he's a remarkable person.
That's exactly the word I was thinking.
Really?
Yeah. He's just so special.
Yeah, I don't know. Because for the past few episodes, almost everything he does has just been like, oh, here's just why are you like this? But for some reason in this episode, I get it. I don't know why. It doesn't bother me as much. I don't know if it's his backstory that we're reminded of, but I feel more sympathy toward him.
Yeah. His backstory is always going to show you that other side of him and remind you, where all this comes from and like how hard it is for him to have this faith. Like, this isn't something that just, comes easily. It's something that he has struggled through his entire life, and it hasn't always worked out, and yet he keeps doing it. It's such a testament to his character and like the strength to like keep getting up when he is crushed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like even when I don't agree with him a lot of the times, I can still respect that strength, like you just said. So,
Yeah, exactly.
back in the hatch, Kate enters, bringing Hurley and Saeed with her. Locke says he needs help, and Saeed quickly directs Kate and Hurley to look for the breaker box to restore the power. Hurley gets distracted by the large pantry of food because he's only human.
That'd be me.
Yeah, same. Back in the pit, Sawyer tells everyone the plan. Jen will play dead, and Ana Lucia will call for help. Ana Lucia is suddenly a lot more interested in where Sawyer got the gun, and why he didn't use it when they were initially attacked. While Sawyer is looking the other way, she grabs the gun and punches him in the face. A rope is lowered down, and Ana Lucia and her new gun are pulled up. Another man asks her what happened and who are they.
Yeah, she does not play it very cool in this scene.
No, she doesn't.
I'm like, girl, chill out. Chill out.
Yeah.
You're showing your cards. But I guess it doesn't matter if you can take the gun that quickly.
Right. That's what she wanted, I think, when she saw that gun. So.
Yeah. Michelle Rodriguez she is the perfect actress for this character because she has a very commanding presence.
Yeah.
You like instantly pick up on that with this character.
Yeah, she does a really good job with this role.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, I said it when we first met her. It's vastly different from our first meeting with Ana Lucia.
Yeah. It's a complete 180 almost.
Yeah. But, you know, this is the better version, I think.
Yeah, it suits her more.
Mm-hmm. And it's the less expected thing.
Definitely. Yeah, it's a good twist. Again, I remember watching this the first time and she turns on Sawyer in almost a second, it seems like. And it's like, whoa, what is happening here? So
yes, definitely.
Desmond is sprinting through the jungle. He trips because that's what everyone does on TV when they're running through a jungle. He gets up and Jack is holding a gun on him. Desmond thinks he wants to know what the numbers are, but Jack couldn't give less of a crap about the numbers. He starts yelling that this entire thing is ridiculous and nothing is going to happen. Desmond suddenly remembers how they met. He asks about Sarah and what happened between them. Jack insists that it doesn't matter, but then admits that he married her, but they're not married anymore. With his trademark, "see you in another life," Desmond leaves.
So do you think Jack was like chasing Desmond down?
Yeah, I think so. I was trying to figure out the answer to that question. Again, I think it comes back to the fact that if it hadn't been Desmond down in that hatch, Jack would have been long gone by now. Like, he doesn't care about any of this. Yeah, but the fact that he knew, like, they met before, I feel like he just can't let that go.
Yeah.
You know, he has to run after him.
It's too unbelievable to him.
Yeah. I also feel like it's kind of tied up with, whatever happened to Sarah. Because obviously we saw a lot of that in the first episode of this season. But I mean, at this point, we don't know what happened to Sarah. We just know that they're not married anymore. So I think he's thinking about all of that when he goes after Desmond.
Well, and, you know, when he was having that conversation with Desmond about Sarah, he was telling him it didn't work. And it was almost like Desmond knew that it had. Because he kept saying, but what if it did? What if she is okay?
Yeah.
So maybe in hindsight, he's always wondered, like, how did that guy know? Like,
yeah.
So, like, of all the guys to see again here in this crazy place.
Right.
Desmond's probably the craziest guy for him to see.
Yeah.
And I feel like this emotional breakdown here is just him realizing that he was kind of wrong about all this, that, you know, there is something, I always struggle with the word, but that there's something like supernatural or something that he, like, bigger than he can understand. There's something happening, some sort of destiny feeling, and
yeah,
like, he's just been so in denial about it, and he just feels like broken. Like, how can I not, how can I not believe right now?
Yeah. he just doesn't, that's not how he lives his life. I don't know. I love this scene. I know you don't like the more intense scenes from Jack or, you know, the actor Matthew Fox, but I feel like when he's yelling at Desmond, I can just, like, I'm just picturing all the flashbacks we've ever gotten about Jack. And I imagine like all that going through his head at this point. And it's so intense. I love it. I think it's great.
It's so intense. It just feels disproportionately intense to me.
Does it?
Like, why are you yelling at Desmond? He's perfectly happy to answer your questions here. He's like really calm and chill about all this. Like, you know, maybe you yell at Locke because he pisses you off for some reason, but Desmond didn't do anything. Like, he's just unbelievable to you.
Yeah, I think he's having a personal crisis like Locke is having back at the hatch.
Yeah, but Locke isn't screaming at people. It's just so different. Like, it's just a different reaction.
Yeah, I feel like they react to crises differently.
Yeah. Just in the beginning, like, Desmond starts telling Jack something and Jack is like, shut up. And Desmond's like, I'm sorry? Like, he plays it so well because that's exactly how I'd be. I'd be like, dude, what? Calm down. What did I do?
Yeah. I don't know what it is about the two of them, but I love their scenes together in this episode. I don't know why.
I don't know. I love Desmond. I always love him. And I think he bounces off, you know, most of the characters really well. He's always Desmond, you know? Like, he just has such a great influence on every scene he's in.
Yeah, you know, I think we've seen Jack obviously go through some things before, but when I think about how he was acting, like, during Exodus and the first episode of this season, when he was almost like being, like, really passive-aggressive and petty toward everything Locke was doing. So I just find it so interesting in this episode that he's completely, like, lost it and he's yelling at Desmond, which, I mean, it doesn't make sense. And, like, again, I like the fact that Locke is also, like, in the hatch by himself yelling. I just love it. I don't know why.
That you just like that they're both broken.
Yeah, I feel like by the end of this episode, I was thinking that, oh, you know, these characters who I've always just thought are so, you know, just on completely opposite ends of the spectrum, they're kind of more similar than I initially thought, you know?
That's true. Yeah, I feel like they are. And I feel like they're just both really rooted in their beliefs.
Exactly.
And this is really hard for Jack because he feels uprooted from his beliefs, and Locke feels like, you know, all his hopes that were built into the hatch are kind of crumbling because it's not what he thought it would be.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
And, you know, you're right. They just react to these different things in such unique ways. So, like, I find Locke's reaction relatable. I don't find Jack's relatable. 'Cause, like, when I'm upset, I kind of, like, internally crumble. And, you know, like, a lot of times people won't even know it's happening. But it's not like I would ever, like, lash out at anyone. I would be, like, confused and hurt and desperate for help. And so I get that from Locke. Like, that would be me. And then if somebody were, like, more like Jack, and they were just, like, kind of, I don't know, just raging. It's like he is just angry with everything around him. Like, that's harder for me to comprehend.
Yeah, it's true. And I like it too because it's consistent with Jack's character up until this point.
That's true. He is always like this. And he was like that in that episode.
Yeah. All the best cowboys have daddy issues.
Yeah. Yeah. Where he was, like, lashing out at Kate. And
exactly.
we were like, dude.
And Locke,
what's going
too.
on?
So.
Yeah.
Yeah. The different ways they react to, personal crises, I guess, is fascinating, I think.
And it's hard to separate Jack's response from the words he's saying. I feel like his emotional breakdown doesn't have anything to do with some of the words he's saying.
Yeah,
it's
very
confusing. True. Like, he's screaming at Desmond, like screaming like no one else on this island screams at people. And he is like, nothing is going to happen. You don't even know what you're running from. He like yells those lines. And I feel like this is not what you're upset about.
Right.
So this is part of like why I don't like the performance. I feel like he's not emphasizing the right thing. Like, that is not the crux of your issue. The crux is you know Desmond and that is bothering you. And then at the end, it kind of feels like maybe this is tied up in Sarah somehow.
Right. So I would argue that, I mean, he puts the emphasis correctly. Cause I mean, he breaks down at the point where he tells Desmond that he married her. So, like, that feels like it's most of what he's most upset about. The fact that he knows Desmond and it's Desmond, knew about Sarah or whatever.
So what do you feel like he's like the most upset about?
I feel like it's a combination of the only conversation he's had with Desmond, off the island has been about Sarah. And obviously Jack saving Sarah and them getting married and whatever happened after, which we don't know at this point, like, that was a major event in his life. And, Jack doesn't like to fail at things. He likes to fix everything. So I feel like it's all, I don't know if that makes sense, but it's all kind of woven in there when he breaks down in this scene.
So is he upset that...
Like, I feel like it's not just one thing. I mean, you could also pull on the fact that he thinks everything that's going on in the hatch is ridiculous, but that's not what's making him the most upset, so...
I'm trying to, like, mentally connect Sarah to all this. I mean, I guess Desmond saying that Jack was gonna save Sarah and then Jack winds up marrying that girl makes it all feel a little like destiny to him, like he was supposed to save her. Am I like Locke projecting on this, or
no, that's
is this part
possible.
Of like the conflict he's having, that he's just got so much crazy stuff has happened as a result of meeting Desmond, and now he's meeting Desmond again and more crazy things are happening.
Jack's just the type of person who I feel like he spent his whole life avidly not believing in any of this stuff. He's more of a realist. And then he comes to this island and he like sees his father at the beginning of season 1. And now Desmond has been living in this hatch for months. And it's just something he spent his whole life denying. So the fact that it seems like at this point it's beating him in the face over and over. Like, this is happening. Something crazy is going on here. And he just can't accept it.
Well, it'll be interesting after this episode because I don't remember exactly his reaction to all this, but I don't feel like he changes very much from it. But
yeah,
I will be watching because like this particular moment with Desmond seems like it should be the straw, and now he's broke, and maybe he would be a little more receptive to new things.
Yeah, but that wouldn't be Jack if that happened. That would not be very in character.
But you're right.
Back in the hatch, Locke asks Saeed if he can fix the computer. There's a lot of computer terms thrown around, and Saeed seems to have zero concerns about what all of this is. He's sure Locke will explain everything later. Which was I feel like this is such a weird reaction for Saeed to have when 12 hours ago he wanted absolutely nothing to do with the hatch or whatever was inside, but fine, I guess.
I thought it was perfect, actually.
Really?
Yeah, because he's a soldier and he has been given all the information he needs to know, and he's doing his job and he's fixing stuff. Like, he's just a guy who needs facts. Like, he didn't want to open the hatch because there could be bad stuff down there, but it's already open. We already know what's going on down here, so he's just going to do what he can to help.
I guess that's true. It just seems to me like just literally hours ago he was like, I'm never going down there. No. So
well, and he's rational enough to know that like once the crisis is averted, everyone will explain stuff. Like, he doesn't need to know right now. And that's what he says. He's like, you'll tell me once it's fixed. Like, I'm on a timer here, and I need to do this quickly.
Fair point.
He's just so dang logical.
I guess. Kate finds the breaker box and restores power. The timer is now down to a crucial 4 minutes, but not to worry. Saeed is here, and he's able to fix the computer in about 5 seconds, which seems a little unbelievable at this point, but it is Saeed. So
he's got the magic touch, I guess.
Yeah, fine. It's like computer from the 70s, no problem. I just need 10 seconds, and I'm good.
Yeah, whatever. It's fine.
Locke sits down to enter the code of numbers. Hurley starts freaking out, but Locke gets the last number wrong and he stays quiet. However, Jack comes back, tells Locke the correct last number, and says that Desmond just confirmed it. Jack's walking away, but Locke tells him that he has to press the button. Jack tells him he's on his own and that none of this is real, but Locke insists, asking why Jack finds it so hard to believe. Jack asks why Locke finds it so easy, but it's been anything but easy for Locke. As the clock winds down to 1 minute, it starts to make a scary, loud, alarm-like sound. Locke doesn't want to do this alone, and with seconds to spare, Jack takes a leap of faith and pushes the button. Locke says he'll take the first shift, and we cut to the credits.
Boom.
Yep.
Love this scene.
Yeah. It's great.
Best scene in the episode. It's literally the scene I think of when I think about season 2.
Yeah. It's kind of a good summary of, I feel like, the big conflict we have in season 2.
Yeah, it really is. And I feel like I love the moment when Jack walks in and just gives him the number. And you feel like there's that, like, crack in him. That's the crack in the dam. And he's just here to, like, kind of open his mind. And Locke just has to push him just a little bit more.
Right. It's like, why does Locke need Jack to take this leap of faith? Again, why can't he pick one of the other 40 survivors? Like, I'm sure one of them would be so much more willing than Jack is to go on this journey with Locke.
Well, I don't think he thinks the other people need to, like Jack does. Jack is the one who has the littlest faith, and so Locke wants him to gain it, you know?
Yeah, see, this is one of my problems with Locke. It's like he's forcing Jack to do what he thinks is best for him, almost like he's forcing him to take part, like, in this religion that Jack wants no part of.
Well, I feel like he just thinks he's opening his eyes to something important.
Yeah, like he thought he was opening Boone's eyes to something important when he drugged him.
I do. I think he feels very similarly.
Locke, sometimes that is not the best way. That's just my opinion, but
you know, when he walks in with the number and Locke wants him to input it in the computer, I feel like I would do the same thing, because I wouldn't trust him to be saying the right number. I'd be like, if this is wrong, it's going to be on you, not me.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Locke puts a lot of faith in Jack at this moment, when Jack has done nothing but argue with him for, you know, this entire episode. So.
Yeah, he's basically just been like, this is all stupid, you're stupid,
right.
Everything's stupid here, I'm leaving. And
right.
So, like, I wouldn't easily trust him, but...
Yeah, but Locke insists on it. It's just, I don't know.
And those iconic lines where he asks, why do you find it so hard to believe? Why do you find it so easy? And it's never been easy. It's the best. It's the best, because that's John Locke summed up. Jack thinks Locke is just following this stupid, ignorant belief, and, you know, this is not easy for him. It's a struggle for him to feel this way. It's just, he thinks it's worthwhile.
Yeah, again, I wish after this scene, Locke had sat down with Jack or anyone and been like, let me tell you my crazy life story so you can understand just a little bit of where I'm coming from. I feel like it would make all the difference, but...
Yeah, maybe. But, you know, Jack's meeting with Desmond and this miraculous saving of Sarah. He's experienced miracles just as real as Locke's, honestly. So they've just viewed these different events so differently.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, again, I feel like by the end of this episode, I can see both sides. Like, I can see why Locke is trying to hold on to this faith that, he's obviously struggled with, his whole life. But I can also see why Jack is still skeptical, because it still sounds like this whole thing is still pretty insane. So
definitely. And, we're calling back to Locke's story with Helen. And he's trying to take this leap of faith with Jack. He tells him, I don't want to do it alone. And it's so great. Like, and it is funny, like, of all the people, he wants Jack's help.
Yeah.
He needs Jack on board.
It's fascinating.
It really is. So, the big question, would you push the button, Randy?
Yeah, this is the big question.
It is the question that I love asking people because I feel like your response says so much about who you are. And I've been asking people this question for years.
Oh, I should start asking people this question.
Like this storyline in The Hatch with the button. I love it so much on a philosophical level because it is such a great conversation starter. If there was a button that you were told would save the world if you just pushed it once every 108 minutes, would you push it? That's such a crazy question.
Yeah.
It really makes you think about like what you believe in.
Yeah, it absolutely does. For me personally, after seeing everything that's going on down there, I would definitely not press that button. I would have pieced out of that hatch a long time ago.
Would you not be scared of what would happen? I feel like you've been very like cautious in all our hypothetical scenarios, and I feel like the cautious thing is to push the button.
No, again, I feel like what would tip me over the edge was that orientation video they watched. Like, after I saw that, I'm like, there's no way I'm sitting down here and pushing this button every 108 minutes. This is some crazy cult. I don't believe any of this. Like, all this stuff is from the 70s. Are you telling me someone's been down here pushing this button for 45 years and none of this stuff has been updated? The computer's so old. Like, no, I would not.
Yeah. I feel like I would.
Yeah. I feel like you would too.
I feel like I'd be Desmond. I don't think I'd be committed to it completely. Like, I could never just believe in it.
But you would do it.
I think I would do it out of that fear that maybe there's a chance that this is really doing something, and there is that electromagnetic field, something is happening, there's something weird here, especially in Desmond's shoes, where you feel like the island you're on is quarantined, like there's something out there that makes people sick, and like he crashed here alone. He has nothing else. He knows he's like in an abandoned place. Like if you're living that kind of life,
yeah,
like you might as well push the button, right?
Yeah. Because
what else are you going to do?
So would you stay down there by yourself and just do it for months and months?
I guess because just what else are you going to do? Like,
I mean, kill yourself? That sounds awful.
Dang, Randy. I don't like your solutions.
I'm sorry. It's pretty dark, but I just feel like I would go crazy if I were down, if I had someone else with me. And maybe because Desmond started off with someone there with him, it's different, but
yeah,
by yourself? Oh, no.
Yeah. And maybe if you're doing this with somebody else who seems so committed to that cause, it would be more believable,
yeah.
to come down here and just like Desmond's not really selling it. He's like, I don't know. I just push the button, the alarm rings, and I do it. Like, that's not going to convince anyone, especially Jack. But,
right.
Maybe the guy before Desmond sold it to him, and now here he is. So there's a lot of factors, but yeah, I feel like just that little worry of maybe it's true would keep me pushing it, even though I wouldn't really believe it. And it would be it would be infuriating.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, thinking about it, maybe I would do it for like a day or two. But after a day or two, I'd be like, this is nonsense. I'm just going to walk out of here. So
maybe I would like push the button and then in between button pushing, like be developing some sort of other plan to like get help or get someone else out here. You know, like, I don't know what I would possibly do. I can't think of what Desmond could possibly do in this situation. Like, especially if you feel like you can't leave without getting sick. Like, ugh.
Yeah, I mean, I would have done what he did in this episode. I would have packed a bag, grabbed some syringes full of the medicine he takes every day and been like, peace out. I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah, I feel like I would do that a little bit, but I would come back. Because first of all, what am I going to do in the jungle? Like, that's intimidating. So I might as well, like, stay close to my food source, my shelter. Yeah. So, oh no. At least he's got books.
True. Books from, like, the 70s, I guess.
Hey. There's good literature from way further back than that.
Fair point.
Sawyer's going to be so jazzed when he sees his new library.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our listeners need to let us know if they would push the button, because I would love to hear people's perspectives on that.
Yes.
It's just the greatest lost question.
Yeah. I'm going to start asking people. That's fantastic. So, did you think of a theme for this episode?
So I said, what will you take the leap of faith for? Because I feel like pushing the button in itself is a leap of faith.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you don't want to be taken advantage of by whoever has told you to do this. But that like little what if is what keeps you going. Like, you have to take a leap of faith if you're going to do this crazy thing. So there's that. Mm-hmm. And then of course there's John Locke's story and his relationship with Helen and, you know, trusting other people and believing in something that you don't understand. Like, yeah. These things are all really hard because sometimes you get burned, like with Anthony Cooper.
Right.
But sometimes you get a Helen, and, you know, like, refusing to take the leap of faith is what will hold you back. That's how you miss out on a Helen.
Yeah, that's very true.
What did you think?
The question I thought of was, like, should you make other people believe in something if you think it's for their own good? Why are you laughing?
Because that is so Jack focused in the Locke episode.
No, I think it applies to both of them.
I feel like I did this with the Jack episode where I came in with like the most Locke theme possible. And you came in on this episode with the Jack themed.
I can't help it. Like,
I know. And it's true. Like, that's something you can totally pull from this episode. It's just so funny how we do that.
I know. Yeah, I feel like they both try to do that in different ways. Like, Jack obviously can't handle this crazy story about the button and the numbers and the fact that Desmond is even on this island. But, like, he can't walk away at the end and just let it go. And then Locke also has to... He insists that Jack, like, needs to be the one who presses this button. And it's like, why couldn't you have chosen someone else to go on this journey with you? Someone who had some more faith than Jack has. So, yeah.
That's exactly why it needs to be Jack, though.
Sure.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
So funny and so true.
I really like this episode. I think it's the best one of this season so far.
Yeah, I would agree. I liked Jack's episode, and this plays into that really nicely, and I think I like it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Not much more, but a little bit.
Yeah, same.
This is not super significant, but I looked up the meaning of Helen.
Okay.
Which is Greek, and it means shining light or bright one. Which I thought that was kind of nice.
Yeah, Helen is Locke's shining light. That's cute.
Ugh, Randy. She is Locke's shining light. It's just like the hatched door, and John Locke is just drawn to light. Don't you love English majors? We can make anything work.
We really can. It's a very admirable trait. Is that it? Should we wrap it up?
Yeah, I have nothing else to add there. That is what it is.
All right. I will wrap it up. Okay, guys, that's going to do it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. If you want to get more involved in the show, please check us out on Instagram and Facebook. You can also head over to our website, which is thelostpodcast.com, or you can email us your thoughts at frecklesandblondie@thelostpodcast.com.
If you would like to leave us a voicemail, you should call 484-416-LOST and tell us if you would push the button and why or why not. Because I would love to just get like a compilation of what people think about that.
Yes, that would be awesome.
That would be really interesting for everybody to hear. So call us 484-416-LOST.
Yes. I would love to hear those voicemails. We're also looking for iTunes reviews for the new year. So if you haven't already, head over to iTunes and rate, review, and subscribe to the show. And if you're feeling particularly generous, you can support us on Patreon as well. Don't forget to tune in next week when we're going to be discussing episode 4 of season 2, Everybody Hates Hugo.
Title alone, it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, it's a Hurley episode, so it's going to be a goddamn delight.
I could not have put it better.
Until then, I'm Randy.
I'm Tiffany.
And this has been Freckles and Blondie.